What's up guys, Manga here, and today's series review is going to be Elfen Lied, a 13 episode series animation produced by Arms Corporation and distributed in the UK by ADV Films, which is now defunct, unfortunately. Elfen Lied is a 50-50 series for me. The parts of this that I really enjoy, and parts of this which I despised. Well, that's probably too strong of a word. Disliked, I'd probably say. Which I'm going to go into a little bit of detail in the review about the things that I liked about the series and the things I disliked about this series. So let's get started. Okay, so Elfen Lied starts off in a coastal secret facility, which are basically experimenting on like humanoid mutants called Diclonius. Our main character, Lucy, is a Diclonius, and basically she escapes from this facility, and basically what gives the Diclonius an upper hand on the human race is the fact that they have invisible hands, or vectors, that they use to basically cut people apart, crush people, basically an extra set of hands that are like super powerful. And yeah, she escapes from this facility, but in the process gets injured, which basically gives her a multiple personality. And basically the Lucy side of her personality is like the violent side, and then the other personality, she gets reduced to like a childlike state, where she can only say one word, which becomes her name, New. She's almost like a Pokemon, because that's pretty much the only word she can say. So she ends up on a beach completely naked, and she's found by two students who take her home, and they basically end up looking after her and adopting her, sort of like, it's a weird relationship. Two students being Kota and Yuki, who are also cousins, and the rest of the series basically deals with them trying to understand who New is, you know, slowly coming to terms with the fact that, you know, she has another personality, you know, kind of try to unravel her, you know, her mystery, sort of, and basically trying to, you know, New constantly being attacked by, you know, special agent forces that have been dispatched in order to track her down and kill her, or, you know, retrieve her. And that's basically the gist of the series. The story, you know, I enjoyed, like the entire concept of, you know, like these mutants that have invisible vectors. You know, is interesting. Like the fight scenes are really interesting, because not only does she fight, you know, human adversaries, you know, like special agent forces, but she also fights other Diclonius, and that makes for very interesting battles. You know, they don't just use the vectors for, you know, slashing people and cutting them in half. They also use them, you know, to try and get like a foothold, you know, launch themselves into the air, you know, wrap themselves around things, you know, that kind of thing. It's, you know, the battles themselves are very interesting, very well animated. And one thing I can say for the animation is the gore and the blood is portrayed very well. You know, also almost basically beautiful, like similarly to how, you know, the blood was portrayed in Shigeru Death Friends, even though they're completely contrasting series. You know, the level of gore is, you know, at that sort of level. And you know, it's the story and the fight scenes are good. What I didn't enjoy was the characters. Lucy is an interesting character, but New, which is her, you know, like alter ego, you know, her second personality. You know, she just she's, I don't want to say retarded, because, you know, political correctness and all, but she's basically handicapped. You know, she urinates herself, and, you know, these crazy things, and, you know, probably the most annoying characters in, you know, in this series, who are just completely unrealistic, are Kota and Yuki, who are the two students who adopt her. Kota is studying in the local university, and he's basically renting out the place that they're living in from Yuki, who is, you know, his cousin. They have a very odd relationship. You know, there's plenty of very disturbing you know, scenes in this anime, very disturbing sort of backstories. It's unrealistic to the point where, you know, they take this, you know, this naked chick from the beach. They don't, hand her into the police or anything like that. They just take her home and start looking after her, and then their home almost sort of becomes like a sanctuary, almost for like captive, like your runaways. Like they pick up another girl, Mayu, I believe she's called, who like ran away from home, and then they end up adopting like other sort of characters that kind of enter into the play in the series, and it's just really unrealistic because why has this house that for some reason has like 10 bedrooms, why has that all of a sudden become like an orphanage? It just makes no real sense. But yeah, this anime is very disturbing. It's the character designs themselves. Let me just get the poster real quick. Lucy, she kind of fits into the series, but when you have character designs for like Yuki and Kota, who are like just in the center, if you can see it there, they're very like shonen-esque, like they're very big eyes, very, I don't want to say goofy. I mean, there are like goofy moments between Kota and Yuki where, like Kota will do something like, perverted or, something will be like, heavily misconstrued where, like he'll be like changing new or something because she can't change herself, and then like, Yuki will, come into the room and just assume that Kota's like, just perving over her and try, like have sex with her or something like that, and then, Yuki will get all angry and like punch Kota like in a comedic, way, and it's just stupid because for what this series is and how violent it is, that kind of harem-esque, sort of comedy just doesn't really work. I just don't really see how it should fit into the series, but yet, there are a lot of times that kind of comedy is used, and the original manga that this is adapted from is a seinen, so it just doesn't work. And Yuki is probably the most annoying character for me. She becomes very jealous of New because obviously New can't look after herself. Kota's very attentive to her, attentive to her needs, and always kind of giving her attention, and Yuki gets all jealous over it. But it's like, why are you gonna get jealous over it? Because your cousins, you should be doing the same thing. And it gets to this weird sort of incest point between them, which is very uncomfortable to watch. So not only does this anime have themes of incest and like inter-family relationships, which are really weird, but one thing I've never really been introduced to in anime is the whole lolicon sort of thing. There are a few, there's uncomfortable, scenes that are like heavily sexualized, and there's heavy sexualization of like underage girls. The only really thing that really stands out for me, the only really sort of good things in the series are the animation in the fight scenes, the use of like blood and gore, it's used to its like maximum effect. Also, the musical score. There's like a basically Lucy's theme in the series is like this little music box which like chants his little song, which is also the opening theme. I think it's called Lilium or something like that. I really enjoyed that, and on the topic of the opening song, the opening for this anime, I was very impressed by. Not only is it all sung in like I think it's like Italian or Latin or something like that, but the actual animation and the actual visuals of the opening are really, really intriguing. You have visuals from the anime, like stills of like Lucy mixed in with the art style and artwork of Gustav Klimt, who was a late 19th century to early 20th century symbolist painter. And I like that tie-in because there's a lot of female eroticism in this show, obviously a lot of heavy sexualization of women, and one of Gustav Klimt's main themes in his artwork was female eroticism, so that really works well in the opening, and the opening is very artistic. Obviously, you've got the visuals of Elfen lead and the artwork and art style of Gustav Klimt, so it's very impressive that. But then that's completely the opening completely overshadows the ending theme and the ending visuals, because the ending or the closing theme is just this like generic J-rock which is really weird. It's just this like really generic sort of rock pop sort of melody with just like visual stills, and the credits rolling up. It's terrible in comparison to the opening, because I was very impressed with the opening. But I guess you'd say the opening is kind of misleading. If the series as a whole had a more serious, overall, if it had a more serious undertone and overtone, then the opening would really work for it. But with the unrealistic story and the unlikable characters, so I don't want to say all the characters are unlikable, because there are some characters that I do like Lucy, for example. There's a special agents guy who's like this hard-boiled soldier who he's just a serial killer. He's not a soldier at all. He doesn't listen to orders, and he just a gun-toting killer. He's kind of the guy who you love to hate. So there's a wide range of likable and dislikable characters in this, but like I said, because it's unrealistic and there's sort of like comedic elements of the series, that kind of juxtaposes and contrasts the impression that I got from the opening, because the opening kind of makes it seem like it's going to be a very deep, psychologically deep series, but it really isn't. It's really just a one-dimensional series that you kind of just have to switch your brain off, and that's kind of what I did. The concept is good. The characters aren't too deep at all. There's not really much room for character development, other than Lucy and Kota, but that's not something I'll go into. There's quite an interesting backstory to them too, and towards the end of the series, that's more fully explained, and I enjoyed Kota's and Lucy's backstory. So there was a little bit of character development between them two, and it's weird because Lucy gets like dual character development. She gets her character developed as Lucy, and she gets a little bit of character development as New. So from one person to have two layers of character development, that was something I found interesting. But overall, the series is just 50-50 for me. Its rewatchability is somewhere bordering on 60%. I may rewatch it at some point, maybe next year or something like that, or when I get a few friends round and we just want to watch something. But yeah, all in all, I enjoyed the series for the most part. It wasn't completely unlikable, even though the characters, some of them are terrible, like Yuki. But I would recommend this anime. It's definitely got a reputation as being one of the more sadistic and gory animes out there. But to be honest, the reputation and hype that it's got, which is the sole reason why I bought it, it didn't really live up to that for me. I mean, from just watching Rin Daughters of Mnemosyne and going into this, it was kind of like a step down for me, because I thought Rin Daughters of Mnemosyne was a lot more violent and a lot more sadistic in its portrayal of violence. This was just kind of like shock gore. It didn't really have that major effect on me. It was just like, oh, more blood, more guts. It didn't really have that pain sort of squeamish sort of effect on me. So yeah, Elfen Lied. Drop me your thoughts and comments in the section below. Tell me what you thought of Elfen Lied. Throw me some recommendations of horror, psychological sort of animes that you think I might be interested in. And until then, Manga signing out.